Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, where stories and other random things take center stage and imagination is prized above all. So, welcome to today's video, and today I am doing recommendations on, and what you should, this is my first part because there are 23 things I want to recommend, so it's my first part, and this is what, to read and maybe even watch, but that will be probably in part 2, after the Aurora cycle. If you have not seen the Aurora cycle videos or my reviews on the Aurora cycle series, I will link it below. It seems I'm getting sick again. I am also, I don't know if you've noticed, back in the US because I'm assuming you can see me better than in my previous videos because I usually didn't turn on the lights when I was in DR. So yeah, I am back, which, yay, I'm back. I'm recording this when I have just finished my first week of the semester. So yeah, it's been interesting. But let's begin. My first recommendation is the Illuminae files by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best. Okay, basically, the Illuminae files is the series I actually knew them by. This is the series that I read before. Like, this is a series that kind of introduced me to them. And so yeah, the Illuminae files starts off with basically there was like an explosion in this colony, and these people were rescued, and we follow Ezra and Katie mainly, and of course a bunch of the other characters, but we follow them as they try to figure out what the hell happened. And this story, and these books are specifically told in mixed media format, so you have emails, instant messaging, documents, camera footage, summaries, you name it, you probably see it there. It's amazing how that works, and I enjoyed it. The next two reads I recommend are Ash Princess and Half Sick of Shadows by Sebastian. Ash Princess follows Theodosia, who for 10 years was a prisoner of the Kaiser, and she is made to do the unthinkable, and after that everything kind of breaks in her and she decides it's time to, you know, save herself and save her people. And with the help of her friends, she ends up with a plan that involves killing that involves the plot of killing the Thane and his daughter, seducing the prince, and trying to turn the court, well, against itself. So yeah, it's fun. Half Sick of Shadows is a retelling of, or reimagining of, the Arthurian legends. We follow Morgana / Morgan Le Fay. Amazing. We follow her. We follow, but by the way, this is in the point of view of Elaine of Shalat, and it's based on the poem The Lady of Shalat by William Tennyson, I think is what his name is. And basically we follow Morgana, we follow Guinevere, we follow Elaine, Lancelot, and Arthur, and they're good friends, but everyone pretty much accompanies Arthur as he is about to take the throne. And Elaine, as if you've read the poem, you know that she has like visions. So she knows what's going to happen in the future and how far is she willing to go basically to change it. But at the same time also what lines is she willing to cross. That's like the big thing. So yeah, the next two reads I have here, 4 and 5, are Darken and Camelot Rising, the Camelot Rising trilogy by Kiersten White. For the record, these are both trilogies. These are not the ones I just mentioned. They're both trilogies. So Darken follows Lada and Radu, who after some circumstance, end up in the Ottoman court, and we kind of follow their relationship with Mehmed, who is like the prince, or the not yeah, he's like heir to the sultan. And I don't know how else to best explain it. I actually want to reread it because I think I'm explaining it in the worst way possible. The Camelot Rising trilogy, I will link below. I have reviewed it. I believe it should come out before this, so I will link below if it's out. Follows Guinevere, but also not Guinevere, because Guinevere is in this instance is a changeling who ended up who was sent by Merlin to marry and protect Arthur, but she's meant to marry him and protect him as a queen. And and she now has to kind of deal with being a queen and go along with what the things that are happening and deal with Camelot's like binding laws, since she's a woman, and do what she can basically. Let me see if it's 2 reads by her. Yeah, okay. So the next 2 reads, I'm saying these 2 because I'm recommending a couple things by the same author, as you can see. But the next 2 reads are Divergent and Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. Divergent follows Tris Prior, who basically, it's in a world, it takes place in Chicago, and it is divided into 5 factions: Abnegation, Amity, Dauntless, Erudite, and Candor. And each of these has a specific trait. Tris Prior is in Abnegation, and when she's 16, along with everybody else, she has to take an aptitude test that determines which faction she will fit in. And then in the choosing ceremony, she, along with every other 16-year-old, has to choose what faction to live in. So, Tris takes a test, but she doesn't fit in any faction specifically, which makes her divergent, and she now has to keep it a secret. So she ends up going to Dauntless, and keeping her divergence a secret, she also ends up having some romantic interest she ends up falling in, or just like having a bit of a romance with her instructor. It's super cute. Carve the Mark follows, I think I finally remember these characters' names properly, because I finally remember Syra and Akos. Akos is part of, I think it's, Hessa, I think is the planet name, but basically he's in this city, and Syra is part of the Noavek family, and they rule the Shotet people, and basically they have everyone kind of gets like this gift, like a current gift, I think is what it's called. A current gift. And Syra's current gift is pain, and she can deliver pain, but she also feels pain. While Akos's gift is he can stop any gift. So when Akos is at some point taken after because Syra's brother wants to basically find out how to stop his prophecy from coming true, and Akos's brother is an oracle. So yeah, it's interesting. But Akos becomes kind of like Syra's he's forced to serve Syra, and in order to take away her pain, basically. And they become friends and eventually also fall in love, or like there's like a romance, but they start out as friends. It's very adorable. My next 3 reads, I always recommend these all at the same time, is, and I'm pretty sure you're tired of this, so it is Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. What a surprise. I'm pretty sure you're very tired of this, because I recommend these all the time. But what can I say? I love her. Anyway, Throne of Glass follows Selena Sardathian, an assassin, or Otterland assassin as she's known, as she is basically in the salt mines of Endovier, paying for crimes against the Empire. She's been there for a year. And at some point, in the beginning of the story, we have the Crown Prince, Dorian Havoyard, who goes there to retrieve her and offers her a deal. He asks her to fight for him as his champion because his dad is looking for her champion. Basically, every council member is like providing a champion. There are like 24 people. And he asks her to fight as his champion, and in return, as she wins, she becomes his dad's assassin, and she gets her freedom in 4 years. So she accepts, but her competition is 23 other men. They're all thieves, warriors, criminals, and people from the military, and so on. So yeah, she's literally the only woman in this competition. So she accepts, and they go on. However, as the competition starts going on, one of the competitors die, and then another, and so on. And she ends up trying to figure out who killed them, and also is trying to survive herself. A Court of Thorns and Roses starts off as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Our main character, Feyre, kills a Fey male, and she is then taken by Tamlin to the Feylands to pay for her crimes, and she'll live out her life there. However, there's a blight upon the land, and there's a curse, and she then goes on to figure out how to break it after certain circumstances. Crescent City, so there's only one book out. It is House of Earth and Blood, but let me see. When by the time you see this, I believe it should be out. Let me double check that. What date is this video coming out on? Actually, no, it's not. By the time you see this, it's gonna come out in like 3 days. So it's gonna come out on February 15th. You're seeing this on the 12th. So it is supposed to come out in February 15th. So yeah, but the book that's out right now is House of Earth and Blood. The book that's coming out is House of Sky and Breath. I'm so excited. Unfortunately, I have to wait to review it, but I'm so excited. Anyway, excitement aside, we follow Bryce Quinlan, who is half Fae, and we follow her as she is basically known as party girl and all this stuff. But one night she goes out, and when she returns, she finds her friends dead. And 2 years after that, the person or the people that killed her friends are active again. So she ends up teaming up with an angel named Hunt Athalar or Orion, whichever one you like best, because both of them are in the book. And they team up to figure out who killed her friends and who they are in general that are being active, and like what they're looking for. So it's amazing. And the last book I want to recommend until tomorrow, where I'll give you the rest of my recommendations, is the trilogy Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha and Ngan. Before I talk about it, I always give this content warning, but before I did review it, and I give the content warnings and the reviews as well, but be careful when reading. For everyone, because throughout the series there are several content warnings. It is sexual assault, self-harm, and references to sexual assault. Specifically in the last 2 books, there self-harm and references to sexual assault come up with when it comes to recovery. There are no explicit scenes of sexual assault. However, it is very, very heavily implied. And and there is like the beginning before it happens. So take care of yourselves if you choose to go into this book. In my reviews, I don't necessarily touch on the sexual assault portion until my third video, where I do Girls of Fate and Fury, because I wanted to talk about something specific in the books, which is the author's notes, where she explains that she went through it as well, and that Girls of Paper and Fire was the story that she needed to write at the time. So I do touch upon it in the third book, but I don't really touch on it in the other two reviews. But I thought I would at least let you know before you watch them, but also before you read this series. Girls of Paper and Fire is okay. It takes place in a world in the kingdom of Kara where there are three kinds of people. There is the Papers, which are basically humans, and they don't have any magical powers, or like, you know, basically they don't have any demonic abilities or any demonic features. If we like horns or animalistic features, as I think it's what it's called in the book. Then there's the Steel Cast, which is right in the middle. They're half human, half demons. They can have animalistic features. And then there is the Moon Cast, which is basically the demons, and they are full on demons, you know. And they are ruled by the demon king, and every year there's a tradition that 8 girls are chosen, and they become the king's paper girls, which are basically his concubines. And this Lay, who lives in this village, ends up being taken to be one of those paper girls. And in the middle of that, however, in the palace, she ends up falling for one of the paper girls, and which is basically forbidden, but also other things are happening. So that is the best way I can explain it. But again, be aware of the content warnings before you read. Anyway, those are my recommendations for now. I will come back tomorrow to give you the rest of my recommendations. And yeah, I'll see you then. Until tomorrow, until my next video, consume stories.